from the shrine of Abil Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. Next up, a unique insight into the world of Arabic calligraphy. We'll have a live interactive session with calligraphy student Sayyid Yunus Dawood here in the studio. And find out the latest in the most pressing news from our partners at the Shia Waves news agency as we give you news of the week. And there you have it, the last episode of this season's Morning Baraka. Start your day with Dua al-Ahad, then a special episode with Sayyid Yunus Dawood talking Arabic calligraphy here in the studio, and ending with news of the week. Hi there. His Eminence, the late Sayyid Muhammad Rida al-Shirazi, narrates that there was a man who was honoured to have met Imam al-Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farjuhu al-Sharif. And it is said that he was honoured many times, not just once or twice. This particular man, was asked, how did you reach this status? How did it all start? He said, one of the days I met Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in my dream. So he asked the Prophet that he is successful in his attempts to see Imam al-Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farjuhu al-Sharif. He was so obsessed with seeing Imam Mahdi that even in his dream, he asked for this need. The Prophet said, if you want this to happen, to see my grandson, then cry over my grandson Hussein in every morning and every evening. Sayyid Muhammad Rida goes on to say that it's not really a difficult task. You simply put on a recording of the Masa'ib and cry over Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam every morning and every evening. Because in Ziyara Nahiya we read, I will lament over you every morning and evening. So the man said, I performed this act for a period of time, and it was the key of success to meeting Imam al-Mahdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farjuhu al-Sharif. Turn your hearts to the Imam of our time and connect with him right here, right now. Up next is Dua al-Ahad. See you in a bit.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم رب النور العظيم ورب الكرسي الرفيع ورب البحر المسجور ومنزل التوراة والإنجيل والزبور ورب الظل والحرور ومنزل القرآن العظيم ورب الملائكة المقربين والأنبياء والمرسلين. اللهم إني أسألك باسمك الكريم وبنور وجهك المنير وملكك القديم يا حي يا قيوم. أسألك باسمك الذي أشرقت به السماوات والأرضون وباسمك الذي يصلح به الأولون والآخرون وباسمك الذي يصلح به الأولون والآخرون يا حيان قبل كل حي ويا حيان بعد كل حي ويا حيان حين لا حي يا محيي الموتى ومميت الأحياء يا حي لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم بلغ مولانا الإمام الغادي المهدي القائم بأمرك صلوات الله عليه وعلى آبائه الطاهرين عن جميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها، سهلها وجبلها وبرها وبحرها، وعني وعن والدي من الصلوات زنة عرش الله ومداد كلماته وما أحصاه علمه وأحاط به كتابه. اللهم إني أجدد له في صبيحة يومي هذا وما عشت من أيامي عهدا وعقدا وبيعة له في عنقي لا أحول عنها ولا أزول أبدا. اللهم اجعلني من أنصاره وأعوانه والذابين عنه والمسارعين إليه في قضاء حوائجه والممتثلين لأوامره والمحامين عنه والسابقين إلى إرادته والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم إن حال بيني وبينه الموت الذي جعلته على عبادك حتما مقضيا فأخرجني من قبري مؤتزرا كفني شاغرا سيفي مجردا قناتي ملبيا دعوة الداعي في الحاضر والبادي. اللهم أرني الطلعة الرشيدة والغرة الحميدة واكحل ناظري بنظرة مني إليه وعجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه وأوسع منهجه وسلك بي محجته وأنفذ أمره واشدد أزره واعمر اللهم به بلادك وأحي به عبادك فإنك قلت وقولك الحق. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس فاظهر اللهم لنا وليك وابن بنت نبيك المسمى باسم رسولك صلى الله عليه وآله حتى لا يظفر بشيء من الباطل إلا مزقا ويحق الحق ويحققا واجعله اللهم مفزعا لمظلوم عبادك وناصرا لمن لا يجد له ناصرا غيرك ومجددا لما عطل من أحكام كتابك ومشيدا لما ورد من أعلام دينك وسنن نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله واجعله اللهم ممن حصنته من بأس المعتدين. اللهم وسر نبيك محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله برؤيته ومن تبعه على دعوته وارحم استكانتنا بعده. اللهم اكشف هذه الغمة، اللهم اكشف هذه الغمة عن هذه الأمة بحضوره، وعجل لنا ظهوره. إنهم يرونه بعيدا ونراه قريبا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ثم تضرب على فخذك الأيمن بيدك 3 مرات وتقول كل مرة: العجل العجل يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان، العجل العجل يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان، العجل العجل يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
Welcome back. Islamic calligraphy, born with the rise of Islam in the 7th century, a captivating art form that we've all noticed but haven't really given it a second thought. Now we enter the shrines of the Ahlul Bayt ﷺ and find all this beautiful calligraphy, sometimes squinting to read what it says but never really understanding where and how it got there. Now, calligraphy is a skill and an art form that is actually massive in the Islamic world. So today we have a special guest in the studio, a student of Arabic calligraphy who is not only well versed in the rich history of this ancient art form, but has also dedicated years to studying and honing the skills required to create pieces of Arabic calligraphy. Now, if any of you viewers remember an Nasheed video that I did called Ana Hubbi Ali, the guy who's teaching me to write calligraphy is the man here today, Sayyid Yunus Dawood. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you?
Mulla.
Inshallah, all is well?
All good.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I've asked you to come onto the show today because obviously I understand that I've interacted with you a couple of times and I've seen that you have a passion for calligraphy. I've always wanted to know about this world, and I'm sure the dear viewers want to know more as well. So we've got you set up here.
Yes.
Before I ask about what everything means and what this is and what that is, you know, I'd love to kind of understand a bit more about how you got into Arabic calligraphy in the first place.
First and foremost, you know, I was born in Holland. I wasn't born in the UK. At that time, a lot of stuff was going on around the between 2003 to 2006. A lot of stuff was going on back in our home country in Iraq.
Yeah.
And one of the main, I think, aspects, or one of the main occasions that led me to an interest from an early on, when I was a young child, was the explosion at the shrines of Askariya in Samarra.
Okay.
I remember going in the morning. I was waking up and I see my parents both at the TV. I'm pretty sure you remember the occasion as well.
Yeah.
My parents were sitting in front of the TV. They were just crying, to be honest. At the time, I was a little kid. I didn't understand the full aspect of what has happened right now.
Yeah.
And I remember as a little kid seeing the footage of, you know, the bombed Askarian shrines and the tiles, the calligraphy, the glasswork, the actual shrine destroyed and everything. And that really touched me as a young little kid.
Okay.
And since then, you know, I remember at the time, you know, the internet was still relatively new back in the day.
Yeah.
So I used to search stuff about, you know, these tiles, and it just fascinated me. I don't know how
the broken tiles fascinated you for some reason.
Yeah.
You saw the calligraphy on there, and then you did a bit more research about it.
Yes.
Okay.
Slowly, I would put one and one together, as in, like, you know, this letter would mean this, and I learnt the Arabic alphabet based on what happened in Samarra.
So no one taught you?
No one taught me Arabic until the age of probably 4 or 5.
Okay, but then before that you knew already? You knew the
I
alphabets
knew
already?
the alphabets, but without anyone really teaching me,
Oh,
surprisingly.
wow. Wow.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, so moving on, then how did you get to becoming a student? And is there a school of Arabic calligraphy? I didn't know there was even a school.
I mean, there isn't really a school in this present day of age. Most people back in our countries, for example, in Iraq or Iran or any other Arabic country, they would go to university where they teach Islamic arts as a whole subject. At the end of that, you can divert from either to, designs,
Yeah.
calligraphy,
Yeah.
Architecture in some aspects.
Okay.
It's a wide range of subjects, and you can specify which one you want to
Yeah.
go ahead with.
Yeah, yeah.
And basically, with that being said, it's really open to everyone to be a student of Arabic calligraphy.
Yeah.
It's if you know the basics of Arabic language in the first place, you
Yeah.
can go ahead and experiment yourself until you get to a point where.
And so I'm assuming if you're a student, there must be some sort of certificate at the end. How
Yes.
long is a course?
There isn't one specific time of a course. For
Okay.
example, you have many people that will go for a lifetime without obtaining a certificate and still become a calligrapher.
Okay.
A lot of places like in Iraq, Bahrain,
And
Saudi.
are they called
Khattatin. Khattat is a person who does calligraphy.
Yeah.
A lot of these places where you actually go and specify time to dedicate yourself to learn calligraphy, at the end you have to be taught or be a student of an ustad of calligraphy, a master of calligraphy in the first place, a master of the craft. And when you become a student of that, you have to dedicate not full time, but dedicate a good amount of time where you basically perfect it.
Okay.
It becomes next to perfect.
And what's next to perfect?
And next to perfect is every single font type that you have in calligraphy, there's stuff you can compare your work with to see, okay, that's the perfect line.
Okay. So
Every
current
font-
work
yeah,
outlet.
yeah.
Okay.
So for example, it's very hard to compare with everything because it's got so much detail.
Yeah.
You can't compare with anything else or make an analogy
Yeah.
of it. For example, the main script type, which is thuluth, which is right here.
Right.
This is muhaqqiq, this is thuluth.
Okay.
Usually you would compare it of how good you've done, or you can become an expert calligrapher once you have mastered the ha letter, the letter ha,
Yeah.
and you can replicate it 5 times.
Replicate it 5 times.
Replicate
exactly
it 5
the same.
times exactly without any differences whatsoever. Once you've done that, you could be classified as a professional and ustad.
And ustad.
Yeah.
And how do the masters
Yes.
know that this hat is exactly the same as this hat?
Everything is measured by dots.
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 Well, especially for example, to be honest, most font types they're measured by dots, but specifically the thuluth font, which is this one right here, and this one is here.
Yeah.
Everything is measured by dots. These are some sketches that I've done before.
you have
Everything
dots
is measured by dots.
here.
Every hat, it's 5 dots long. In width.
In width,
In
okay.
width, yeah.
Yeah.
And in the height is usually around 7 to 8.
Okay.
And everything between that is measured in dots. Half a dot, 1 full dot.
I get you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why this script exactly is called the thuluth font.
Okay.
Slopes and diagonals usually go in 3 dots.
3
dots usually. For example, the alif, this is not really shown that well, but 3 dots usually you have to count, so it slopes down as 3 dots.
Okay.
With the same width of the pen. That's why this is called the thuluth font usually.
So you see how you have 1, 2, 3 dots here.
Yeah.
And then if I let me get this one. Sorry.
Yep.
So you got 3 dots.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1, 2, and 3.
3, yeah.
So are you telling me that this slope here has to be 3 dots?
3
long?
dots wide, basically. So this is not really a good exact replication of what it is. But for example, if the alif starts here and ends here, it needs to go at a slope where there's 3 dots wide. Yeah.
I get you now. Okay.
Yeah. That's the main aspect of how.
But does it have to slope? Because none of your alifs
None of
are
it. The thing is,
sloping.
it depends on the font itself as well.
Okay.
You've got within the thuluth world.
Yeah.
You have, for example, al-muhaqqiq and al-rayhani,
Yeah.
which is a bit more different. They've got subtle differences.
Yeah.
Where every single one has got subtle different, and every single one of them has a different name to it, basically.
Fine.
And that's how it really works.
And are there any legendary people within the calligraphy world that you can explain to us? Who
Back
they are?
in the day, to be honest, this could go on for a very long.
Before we do
period
that,
of-
should we get started on
why not?
on
Sure.
the activity for
100%.
today? I think you have something slightly prepared beforehand, and the theme I explained is Imam al-Mahdi Ajallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. So walk us through, I guess, what you're going to do now.
Usually, most calligraphers before they start anything, they would set up their pens and sharpen their pens and whatever.
All right. So before that, what is this?
These are just calligraphy pens. These are
That means nothing.
bamboo.
That means nothing to
I
me.
know.
Calligraphy pens. Tell me.
These are bamboo sticks.
Bamboo sticks.
Bamboo sticks
Okay.
or thin bamboo sticks that are usually used for flutes as well sometimes.
Okay.
The same ones.
Yeah.
However, they're dried to a specific age and they're cut to a specific angle for each font.
They're dried For a certain amount of time?
For a certain amount of time. You can't make it too dry where it breaks, snaps easily.
Okay.
And it can't be too fresh where it just bends as well. Yeah. It's dried in a specific way where you can get that. And then it's cut in a way where...
The top here?
The top here in a slight angle, and then here as well, it's cut on a different...
I don't know if you want to show the dear viewers.
And this is the chopping board for it as well, where you...
Chopping board?
Technically the chopping board.
Where you do what?
You either cut it on, like in terms of this angle or that angle, and then you sharpen as well here, for example, like this.
See.
Yeah, that's how it really usually works.
Okay. All right. So this is what you write with.
These are the main adawat the main utensils or the main equipment that you write with.
Okay. And there's obviously different shapes and sizes, but
depending
on what
depends
you're
on what you're writing, it depends on what you're doing.
Okay. Cool.
Everything is very different.
Fine. So that's your utensils. Talk to me about the ink.
The ink, there's traditional ink and there's usually the new ink that we use. New ink is much cheaper than traditional ink. Traditional ink is, I'm not really sure from what they make it of.
Okay.
But it's very traditional and they use specific papers for that type. They use, this paper is just for practice usually.
Okay.
The other type of paper is called muqahhar paper.
Right.
Which is paper they've taken out every aspect where it doesn't soak in the ink. It's traditionally made.
I think they call it parchment.
It's something similar to parchment, but is it much more different piece of paper. Actual calligraphers back in the day, they used to make their own paper for this kind of stuff. Actual calligraphers back in the day.
So there's a science to it because you don't want the ink to soak it up.
Yeah,
you don't want the paper
absorb. You don't want it fully to absorb. Otherwise, you'd be using ink and a lot of ink. You want it so it flows well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't soak up, so you can change around with it.
So what kind of paper is this then?
This is
feels like
photography paper is a good substitute for this.
Okay.
This is photography paper for it's smooth.
Yeah.
It's not rough,
yeah.
and it can flow the ink quite easily.
Okay, fine.
Which is good for it.
Fine. So what utensil have you decided to use?
This is the normal bamboo stick, but just of a thicker size, basically.
Of a thicker size.
Okay. And
I noticed beforehand that you put in some rope in there.
Here inside the ink, you can either put cotton pad or silk threads. This is silk threads. Okay. This is so the absorption of the ink when you dip in the pen, it absorbs, it disperses basically.
Okay.
It doesn't give in one specific place. It disperses on how you
Okay, fine.
Basically how you do it.
Fine.
So, should we start, inshallah?
Yeah, bismillah. I might ask you random questions every now and then, but we'll give that a go.
No worries.
And are these utensils expensive? Is it expensive to you might need to renew these every now and then, right?
You have to renew these,
yeah.
Especially you chop. Basically, if you finish with this, it's getting a bit dull. You chop it up and make it one again, basically.
It's like a pen,
sharpening pencil.
Okay.
Same thing. And from what I know, master calligraphers back in the day, they would actually grow their own bamboo sticks for the specific. It's a lot of science goes in, like specific breed and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's not really something dedicated to one thing. You can change with a lot of stuff.
Right. And these, I guess, are all your
these are previous stuff.
Do we call them drawings? Do we call them writings?
Calligraphy, I guess, practice, stuff like that.
No, as in when you finished a piece of work, what do I call them? Is it a drawing?
It's a calligraphy piece,
A calligraphy piece?
Yeah, it's not drawing. It's very, very much different. It's very much different.
Okay, I want to get it right.
Yeah, that's all right. In terms of back in the day, calligraphy, it became around the Abbasid time of era. Back before that, calligraphy, or just writing in general, was just a way of me to communicate between each other.
Okay.
Especially in the Arab world and the Arabic language.
Yeah.
It was, number one, to write the Quran, to understand the Quran, and to spread the Quran.
Yeah.
After that, it became means of beautification.
Okay.
So, for example, instead of me just writing my name, it would be a signature and it would be something nice that will end, for example, a risala or a poem or whatever it is.
Right.
So when people see, like, okay, this looks nice, kind of thing.
Right.
And it slowly developed from that.
And was there any Western influence? Non-Islamic influence?
Non-Islamic influence, in generally speaking, you have some areas that are closer to Europe, for example, Morocco.
Okay.
They have their own type of a calligraphy font or type of style, which is influenced by whatever was going on in Spain. I'm not really too much specified on that. I'm usually most on the traditional, that's what's going on basically. One of the main pioneers actually of calligraphy was called Ibn Mulla al-Shirazi.
Ibn Mulla
al-Shirazi. He was born in Baghdad and killed in Baghdad as well.
Okay.
He was a wazir, I'm not sure, he's a minister, I think.
Yeah.
A minister at the time. He was a poet.
What era?
Around the Abbasid era, but I'm from what I've heard, it's around between Imam al-Kadhim and Imam al-Jawad time.
Harun Rashid.
Yeah. That kind of time.
So Harun's time. Okay, fine. Interesting.
He put the basics and the guidelines of most of the thuluth calligraphy that we know today.
So when you say, you keep saying thuluth, are we looking at this?
For example, this is thuluth. This is thuluth, but a Rayhani thuluth.
Okay.
Rayhani and Muhaqqiq.
Right.
Rayhani is more open. For example, here you can see the letters usually curve inwards.
Okay.
Here the letters are much more open and much more highly spaced. For example, you've got the meme, instead of curving inside like this, it opens up like this.
Ah, like that way.
Like that, exactly. You've got the same thing with this, it opens up. These are called Muhaqqiq Rayhani. And this is usually the first...
That's what I see on shrines.
Usually the tiles, the blue shrines, the blue tiles that are around the outskirts, are usually Muhaqqiq Rayhani they use. Because it's much more open and you can read it easily.
And this one looks a bit different to all of that. So what's this?
This is Farsi. This
Farsi.
is Khat al-Farsi or Khat Nasta'liq they go.
Khat what?
Nasta'liq.
Nasta'liq.
It's a Farsi font and it's got its own pens, its own people that pioneered into this. They've got their own asatid as well.
Oh, wow.
From how every single font has their own asatid and they have their own...
So when you become an ustad, a master, you're not a master of the whole calligraphy world. You're a master of that font.
Of that font, basically.
Because that font is so difficult to do.
You have to master it first before you learn other fonts. Usually, it's pretty difficult.
That's crazy.
Usually the most font that people start with, although I didn't start with it because for me it's really difficult, is Nusukh.
Okay. And that's Quran, isn't it?
Is the same font that the Quran is written in. It's easily readable. Is somewhat easily transferable as well, so you can write it down and copy it down quite quickly. And that's what the Quran used to be. It used to be written Rayhani, usually. But then it changed to Nusukh most of the time.
So what about this whole Kufi font? What's that?
The Kufi font was mainly...
Do you have any examples of Kufi?
I've got no examples of Kufi font because how difficult
that's
Kufi
difficult.
font is. Kufi font was used mostly by Amir al-Mu'mineen at the time.
MashaAllah, okay.
And the original Qur'ans that we have from back in the time is written in the Kufi font.
You mentioned Amir al-Mu'mineen. You mentioned something beforehand about the accreditation.
Yes.
And how it's a chain of...
Yes.
On the screen there, we have a picture of what...
One of the accreditations.
One of the accreditations. Yes. So walk us through how it works.
Basically, after a person has done the experience of calligraphy and becoming a student of calligraphy, and you've basically mastered that calligraphy font, usually you get accredited certificate. Okay. You get a certificate from your ustad that this person here that has studied with me has basically learned all the skills and to do with calligraphy or with this specific font.
Fine. They
would give that certificate and it's like, Flan ibn Flan, someone, has done this course or has learned with me and he's accredited to be, is a full-on calligrapher.
Fine.
However, one of the attributes in the certificate that a lot of calligraphers do is that they give gratitude to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam.
Oh, wow.
Because one of the first people that pioneered the Arabic language was Imam Ali.
So in any certificate, Sunni or Shia, you will all have...
Both. I'm talking nearly about 90% of certificates when a person graduates of calligraphy or from a calligraphy ustad, is they accredit Amir al-Mu'mineen for pioneering the Arabic language in the first place.
SubhanAllah. And that's written on the certificate itself.
Yeah.
It's about, if I am not mistaken, it's about middle to...
It's midway, it's midway,
It's around there.
It's around there. It says, from the Fadhil of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we have the Arabic language today as it is. Back in the day, the Arabic language, although I don't know much about the specifications, however, the Arabic language did not have dots.
Okay.
Amir al-Mu'mineen kind of pushed that forward of the way of dots to distinguish letters from each other.
Okay.
For example, adal and adal, you wouldn't know the difference really until they put a dot on top of the dal. So that's how it really got pioneered. And people, when they get accredited, you get accredited from a person who's learned from a person, who's learned from a person. Technically, back to Amir al-Mu'mineen, who we accredit.
Okay. So we're gonna take a small break, and I think we're gonna leave Sayyid Yunus to finish off, inshallah, or start his project. We're gonna go to a small break. When we're back, we're gonna talk more about calligraphy and this whole world of calligraphy, which I'm very, very interested in. I'm very invested as well. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
We have all lost loved ones. Our duty of care towards parents, siblings, friends, and family does not end with their death. Rather, We have a duty to pray for their forgiveness and to continue our kindness by conveying rewards to them by reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. Imam As-Sadiq Salamullahi alayhi says, if you recite Alhamd on a dead person 70 times, don't be surprised if then the soul returns to the body. With a small contribution, you can have the names of your marhumeen shown on Imam Hussein TV 3. For more details on how to get this done, WhatsApp, marhumeen, or call us now on the numbers on the screen.
Welcome back, dear viewers of Morning Baraka, exclusively live on Imam Hussein TV 3. If you've just joined us, you are at the second part of my interview with Sayyid Yunus Dawood, a student of Arabic calligraphy and also Iranian calligraphy, right?
A bit of Farsi as well,
Farsi,
yeah.
right. So a student of Arabic and a bit of Farsi calligraphy, who for me, in my eyes, looks like an expert because I've been watching him write Ya Sahib al-Zaman, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
Ya Sahib al-Zaman. Joining us now, we've talked about, I guess, the history behind calligraphy, Imam Ali's influence when it comes to writing dots on letters and how that started, how the beautification of the Arabic language started, and who were the main pioneers behind Arabic calligraphy. I guess I wanted to know from your side, you mentioned, is it Sayyid Mulla Shirazi?
Ibn Mulla Shirazi.
Ibn Mulla Shirazi,
yes.
who was one of the pioneers
of the main Thuluth font. Yes.
of Thuluth font. He's got an interesting story.
He was one of the ministers, as I think previously said. He's one of the ministers of the Abbasid era. However, because of his popularity at the time, a lot of people were attracted to him because of his calligraphy and his other and his poems and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He was actually killed, but not any way of he was killed. He was actually had his hands chopped off and his tongue cut off.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why?
Because anyone the Abbasids saw as a threat to them, although it was supposed to be a culture or the golden age of the Islamic era.
Yeah.
Anyone that has too much influence, just like other people, they
Yeah.
had, just like
Was
some
he- was
of our
he-
Imams, like Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Imam al-Kadhim.
Was he friendly with the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, this person?
He was of a school of thought.
Okay.
But still, they would see as a person that didn't
of high influence.
of high influence, and they didn't see that he was suitable to stay.
And they just killed him off.
They
even
cut
though
his
he's
hands off and his tongue, and basically died because of it afterwards.
Oh wow.
And that goes to say, for some people that would point out the Abbasid era as an era of the golden age.
Yeah.
Of how they used to influence culture and stuff like that. But culture would only be applicable if it's good for them.
Right.
Anything else, they would,
Yeah, no,
they
that
would
makes sense.
dissociate from them or even get rid of them.
Get rid of
basically.
them. Yeah. That
And
makes sense.
that's
So I've noticed that you've got a bit of a stencil, but you can write without
a stencil.
Without stencil.
Writing without a stencil. Most calligraphers write with a stencil, or just
Most calligraphers write with a stencil.
with a simple outline. It's very difficult to get to a stage where you can write anything without a specific, for example, a thin outline or anything.
A bit
else.
of a framework
You have
to
to.
work with.
You have to, number one, for example, to see the paper, how much it would handle or how much is capable of taking.
Yeah.
Number one. So,
Yeah.
for example, if it's too small, you have to make maybe the letters a bit smaller.
Okay.
It's
okay.
normal stuff, all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But other than that, it's very, very difficult just with measurements.
to get it right.
As it is.
But if you wanted to just
Yeah.
freely write on it, you could do so.
I could do that. I could, like, for example, I've got some here, like for these poems here, or for example, would I have? Yeah, like for example here.
This is free.
This is here called Ruq'a Farsi.
Okay.
Ruq'a is a different font. Farsi is an addition to as well.
Okay.
فلا يندبنك صباحا ومساء ولا يبكين عليك بدل الدموع دما ما حسرة عليك ولا till the end of the thing.
Yeah.
For example, it didn't fit here. Just go on the second line.
Okay.
And see how much words you have left and put in the middle, basically.
Right. So
So-
everything is symmetrical. Everything is.
It's nice to have it
There's a lot.
symmetrical.
Is there any mathematics involved?
Mathematics, I mean, not to an extent.
Not to an extent, no?
But
Okay,
for example,
cool.
Kufi does. Kufi does.
In what way?
Kufi has a lot of mathematics in terms of the spacing.
Okay.
Of exact
So they have
space.
to be-
It's very specific. It's very specific because it's very difficult to read. It has to be quite spaced out so you can read it, well. I have one of my asatid there, Sayyid Amir Hussein Tabtabai, who lives in Asfahan in Iran. He's got this thing that he does. for example, and his main thing is not on paper, it's on cloth that he does.
Oh, wow.
He does calligraphy.
That's much harder, isn't it?
It's much harder because you don't have a pen.
Yeah.
He sometimes is so big that he uses, so for example, a brush, you know, like a broomstick.
Yeah.
And he dips in that and he writes on cloth.
That's impossible.
And it looks amazing. It's unbelievable. He's one of the great asatid in Iran in terms of probably the only person, probably out of 3 people in the world that writes Arabic calligraphy on cloth and it looks better than on paper.
Really?
It's beautiful.
Cloth is the hardest material to
I
write
think
on.
it's very hard because it soaks.
It's
not like this. It soaks. And if you've done a mistake, there's no way you can. It's a piece of cloth. It's really difficult.
With this, can you do anything about it? If you make a
yes,
mistake
you can.
You can?
With this kind of paper, you can scratch it off afterwards. After it dries off, you've got a special tool, you can scratch it off.
I see.
Yeah, you can scratch it off. For example, if it's small mistakes or like that, you can scratch off like, you know.
That's
but
really
it takes a long
cool.
time to do that.
Yeah.
Amir Hussein, what he does, Ustad Amir Hussein, what he does is, for example, if he writes on a piece of cloth and he gets to the end of the line, and usually does it freestyle, he doesn't do a stencil behind it, unless it's something very complex. He sees, for example, that he doesn't have enough space to carry on the ayah or the surah or the hadith. He would make it smaller and smaller. So, for example, if you would have, for example, Allahumma barik li Mawlana Sahib Zamana, like we have here. For example, I put Allahumma barik, it gets up until like 3/4 of the way. Mawlana will be smaller, Sahib will be smaller, and Zaman will be smaller. So it becomes like a crescendo kind of thing, effect. And that's what a font called Diwani they use a lot, quite a lot.
Okay.
When there's no space, they would curve upwards and put it, if you've seen some,
Yeah. That just basically means he made a mistake on the measurements.
Not
and he's
really,
trying to make it
not
better.
not exactly. But it gives it a nice, you know, visual, you know, differentiation other than, you know.
Okay. But other than that, it's. And so, what have you? Where do you put your work? I mean, what do you do with your work?
I've basically gone for a long while without actually showing my work to most people.
Oh.
One of it was the Mawla Ali video.
Oh, yeah?
Ali Mawla video.
Yeah.
That was one of their instances. Most work that I do, if someone sees that is good enough, usually in majalis.
Okay.
A lot of back pieces, backdrops. I do a lot of backdrop work.
But that's not you physically writing on it. That's more graphics.
Here, I finish it off. For example, if I do something by hand, I'll finish it off. I'll scan it in, and then make that into a vector where I can use it for graphic works on my computer.
So now you've mixed kind of
Basically,
the technology with the traditional style of
and
writing.
that's something that's gone on really quite well.
Yeah.
A lot of people, alhamdulillah, find some nice aspect to my work, although sometimes I see just faults.
The work that you do you put it anywhere? Is it part of a portfolio? Is it online?
I really consider myself still a student, not an ustad or worthy enough of, you know, sharing, out of respect to asatideh,
Okay.
to share my work for people to use. And some people do share their work. I think I need to get to a stage where I'm like, okay, this is not bad enough, where I can share my work.
Right.
You know, a lot of people.
I mean, with sorry,
Yeah.
Said, but this is fantastic stuff. If I don't mind, you know, if you don't mind me saying.
The thing is,
but in your eye, it's still there's a lot of mistakes in there.
I think there's a lot of mistakes in there. You know, there's some stuff. It's very subtle stuff. It has to be next to perfect, especially when you're writing the names of Ahl al-Bayt and Infallibles.
MashaAllah, yeah.
They are perfect individuals.
Yeah.
They are perfect entities.
So they deserve perfection.
They deserve perfection.
Okay.
Regardless, you know, the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or, you know, the ayat of Allah, they are perfect. And the closer you get to perfection, that's when you're like, okay, that's not
Okay.
bad. But
So-
for example, here, I can right here, I can just spot, like, you know, this mistake here, this mistake here, this mistake
Fine.
there.
So you mentioned that you have some stuff online.
I
how
do
does
have
it
some
work
stuff.
with your
Yeah,
work?
yeah. I do have a Telegram channel.
Okay.
That, I post some of my calligraphies without a background.
Okay.
For people to use either on their posters or print out stuff with them. And sometimes I never thought that it would gain a lot of attraction. You know, it's more than around 300, 350 people that follow the Telegram channel. So it's not a lot of people.
Yeah.
However, some days, you know, I would, for either Instagram feed or Telegram feed, I would go through, you know, these people that have done majalis in Iran, in Iraq, in Bahrain, in Lebanon, in Australia, in America, behind Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi himself, actually, one time, actually.
Wow.
I see my work highlighted there, and sometimes I'm like, wait, this no way is my work. I would zoom in, I'm like, oh yeah, it is my work.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Alhamdulillah, you know, it's one of the perks of doing this kind of stuff. Every so often, you have, you know, something come up that, oh, okay, that's my work.
MashaAllah.
Yeah,
so people are benefiting without you even
Alhamdulillah,
knowing,
yeah, alhamdulillah.
So could you give me an example of maybe, I don't know, 3 images that we have that of your work being used?
Yep, 100%. So here we have the first one I told you about is the Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi.
Okay.
Behind Ayatollah Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi.
Yeah.
This was, I believe, 2 Safars ago.
Okay.
So not this Safar, last Safar.
And walk us through what the design is.
This design on the 2 sides says, قال شيخ الأئمة Imam Sadiq عليه السلام نوحوا على الحسين.
Nuhu al-Hussein. Okay.
From a hadith that he's got, and in the middle,
And
من زار قبر الحسين كمن زار الله في عرشه.
and this is the one behind Sayyid Sadiq?
Behind Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi. This one we have here, it says, Salam alayki ya Kulthum.
Okay.
There's one thing that I usually do, I believe this is in Tehran or somewhere around Tehran. One thing that I really sometimes do my work is for people and places, or specifically individuals from the Ahl Bayt that don't have much recognition. For example, Salamullah alayka ya Abu Abdullah, it has, mashallah, a lot of calligraphies online, has a lot of calligraphies everywhere basically, technically. And there's a lot of asatidh there where you can't beat the standards of what they produce for Abu Abdullah. Sometimes I focus on lesser known individuals or people that don't have enough calligraphies or representation in terms of this calligraphic world or the Islamic world or the world of art technically. For example, Kulthum is, Salamullah alayha, she's very undermined. I believe she's very madluma as well.
Yeah.
She's the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatima al-Zahra.
Yeah.
And some riwayat say that she was, she was there at the event of the door.
Okay.
And some, the khutbah of her in Kufa and in Sham is very well known and predecessors. She said her speech before Sayyidah Zainab did her speech. So I found her very madluma and she's not really covered in terms of a lot of people.
Interesting.
Either through their khutab or through thing. So one thing that I've realized is that some places around the world, they actually hold commemoration majalis for her martyrdom.
Do they?
And there's no calligraphies for example, if I want to put a back piece or a backdrop for these majalis, there isn't enough around there.
Okay.
So I created that, I think, 3 years ago or something. And
that's the one
yes,
there, right?
alhamdulillah.
Okay. What does it say?
Salam alayka ya Kulthum.
Okay.
And it's really simple stuff. I never thought it would gain that much attention, but because it was, something very specific and not many people have something like that, it spread like wildfire.
Fantastic.
There's multiple people that, have, printed these out, and alhamdulillah,
Brilliant.
it brings some kind of enjoyment, let's say, when you see these kind of stuff. Alhamdulillah, something that I've done that maybe I don't find as very significant has actually helped other people to do their stuff.
Fantastic.
Alhamdulillah.
Fantastic.
So
is there a plan, like once you become a master, to do more like official work? Would you even consider selling them? Maybe not you, but do masters or asatidh that actually sell their work?
I think after a while, when they've had enough of hanging them on the walls, they usually would sell. Yeah,
okay.
they usually would sell. Usually, they mostly do commissions. They don't really sell.
So someone's asked them for a specific project.
For a specific project. One person that I really look up to in terms of the calligraphy world, because he's mastered basically most font types that we have, is an Iranian Ustad, Nasser Taousi.
Okay.
MashaAllah, his calligraphy work is unbeatable. It's everywhere. Like it gets to a point where I can't enter a majlis without seeing one of his calligraphy work.
Really?
One of the asatidh, Sayyid Amir Hussein, is got to a point where I think every Hussein in the world has his calligraphy somehow.
No way.
He's got into that specific field and dedicated himself so much that I'm pretty sure there's no Hussein in the UK or probably in the world without some of his calligraphy somewhere.
What's his hallmark? What's his specific symbol style?
His mainly is thuluth.
Okay.
Thuluth usually that he does.
Right.
But it's so much so everywhere that it's really hard to escape sometimes of how much he does.
Yeah.
And alhamdulillah, mashallah, everyone that uses his pieces is genuinely very, very nice. Like I can probably tell you a piece and you straight away you think about it. You know the black ones, the triangle ones that you hang usually, the black triangular ones.
Yes.
With gold writing or silver writing.
Yes.
That's his work.
That's his work.
That's his work. And it's unbelievable, mashallah. It's a very simple idea.
So these backdrops that we're talking about, we're not talking about the ones that we are talking about the ones behind the minbar, the big ones.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Of course,
but we're talking about the ones that people hang up on the walls.
In houses.
In houses.
I'm telling you, like probably in the audience, they probably have a piece of him, of one of my asatidh they've got that does not even know who's the person is.
I got you now.
And he's a very young ustad as well. That's the nice thing about him. Okay. He's a very young person that entered this field quite early on. learned really quickly and actually, and mashallah, in terms of things, succeeded technically.
So back to this. I've noticed you haven't put in the dots yet.
Not yet, no.
So when do you typically, obviously at the
I
end,
usually
but-
like to finish the artwork, the first main letters, before I actually put the dots or the harakat.
Harakats, yeah.
What is harakat in English?
The grammar, I would say.
Grammar,
Yeah.
accents. No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the grammar. Why? Because if you have a dhamma or a kasra and you say it wrong, you're saying that's grammatically wrong.
Grammatically wrong,
Yeah.
okay.
So I would
Probably grammar, I'm guessing, yeah. Grammar by itself needs at least 2-3 years to learn on how where to place.
Oh, where to place.
Where to place.
I've noticed sometimes you might make things up. So what's this? That bit there. One looks like a.
Make things up is a big statement. by the
Okay,
way.
not you guys, but like.
No, I'm joking.
But the one that looks like a bird.
Okay, we've got out of
Where
all
is
the
This one here.
for example here.
Huh.
Out of all of this, in
Yeah.
terms of the grammars are these stuff here. For
Yeah.
example, we've got fatha, dhamma,
Yeah.
hamza, sukoon.
Yeah.
Out of everything, you've got two things you can place anywhere you like. But it's not anywhere you like. It's for
Yeah.
a specific reason that you put it there.
Yeah.
You've got the warqa.
What
which
is that?
A flower.
Just a flower.
Just a flower.
It
It's
means
called the
nothing.
warqa. It's called the warqa.
It means nothing. It just
Sorry,
makes
it's
it look
warda. It's
better.
called the warda. Yeah, it's called the warda.
Just so it looks nicer.
It's got a specific job.
All right.
It's not because it makes it look nice.
Okay.
And you've got a warqa, which is these stuff here. These
Let me
two-
guess. Let me guess. Is it to fill the gap so that there's no
Is to make it
empty?
even.
Ah.
For example, if you didn't have this here,
Yeah.
technically you can't put another thing just out of your mind, something.
Yeah,
If the actual formation of the letters is not very spaced out evenly, you have to fill it out somehow. For example, here you've got a zaman very quite vertical,
Yeah.
but on top of the sahib, you don't have much going on.
And you can't leave this part
And you
empty.
can't leave it
because aesthetically, it doesn't look right.
Aesthetically, usually with the Rayhan and Muhaqqaq, with this original font back in the day, they wouldn't really use warqa and thing. It was just the main.
When we
Like,
put
for
it
example,
down
you've got
so
here.
people can- okay.
You've got here. This is Rayhani in probably one of his very good forms that I've tried
Yeah.
actually doing it. I'm kind
Should we
of
just- yeah.
This is Du'a al-Faraj that we have here.
Okay.
You don't have much wardat going on because it's supposed to be left empty.
So why didn't you put something here? Because I can see there's a gap.
I know exactly. There's a gap here.
So I noticed.
Yeah, you noticed.
Okay, good.
You're getting there.
Yeah,
you're
I
getting
can
there.
see it. Okay.
Usually, a warda is not really in this font. You don't really use much.
Okay.
It's only if you really need it. For example, here it's a bit empty. You leave it here. But usually, most back in the olden
And
days,
just looking at this, I think maybe one. Is it maybe to make it look more like a square?
that's one thing.
Huh.
When I'm talking about
Like a border.
yeah, proportionality and even making it even, that's what
Yeah.
it usually means. It means it to make it look like a specific shape. For example, you can write a calligraphy in a circle thing, but because there's not enough harakat going on, it could be left empty and there's ridges. Nothing like that.
Right.
And that usually becomes, a good spot to either put warqa or put a warda basically.
Interesting. I knew there wasn't a specific purpose. Well, there is a specific purpose. but I
Everything
knew
else
it
has a
didn't-
specific purpose.
Ah.
Everything else has, especially the word of Allah, the Quran and specific ayat that you have to do, it's very difficult. For example, an ayah, وَسَقَاهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ شَرَابًا طَهُورًا. You don't have to go and go like, for example, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman, you don't put an alif. Ar-Rahman, although it sounds like an alif,
Yeah.
it's, one of the
Little.
asterisk, yeah.
Yeah.
These kind of stuff are very specific with the Quran. That's why usually calligraphers of the Quran are very, very specific with this kind of stuff. And it's very difficult. That's why it needs years. Where I can say a word, you would know the origin of the word. So you have to have deep understanding of Arabic. Know the origin of the word and know the i'rab of it.
Okay.
Know where the grammar goes.
Yeah.
Without, looking into the Quran.
Okay.
That's what takes long, basically.
Right.
That's
So
the
it's not just the
differentiation.
drawing side to it, but the theory side to it is actually
Yeah, of course,
understanding the Arabic
because
language.
if you change the grammar, you've changed the meaning.
Of course.
If you change a fatha to a kasra, it's a big
Yeah.
deal. But it might not show much,
Yeah.
but it changes a big amount of deal basically.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to leave Sayyid Yunus to finish off his calligraphy. At the end of the show, I'm going to come back to him and see the final piece. So, up next, we have news of the week. So, inshallah, we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Herat, Afghanistan. In a dimly lit room, a young mother despairingly kindles a lantern. Casting a warm, flickering glow across the room, her eager children await their first meal. With her limited supply of food, she prepares a simple dinner for her family. Hope, unity, and love in the face of adversity fill the air as they gather together in this fleeting moment, unaware of what tomorrow will bring.
Mommy, I'm freezing.
Me too, darling. Have some water.
Welcome back, dear viewers. Now, as Sayyid Yunus is finishing off his calligraphy design, we're going to give you, well, we're going to go straight to the news. Before the news, or the latest news of the week, before the news, it was the famous, or the rather infamous battle of Jamal, Maraka Jamal, where armies of Muslims arranged themselves against each other. On one side were Talha and Zubair, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. At the head was the Prophet's wife, Aisha. On the other side was an army led by Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam. Now, the Imam tried his best to avert the war, but the opposition remained adamant. They said that they were out to avenge the blood of Uthman. As the battle raged on, a companion who had been watching in detachment slowly advanced to Imam Ali alayhi salam and said, "Oh Ali, is it possible to believe that men like Talha and Zubair and a lady like Aisha have all joined hands on the wrong side?" The Imam replied with a smile on his face. He says, "You have tangled yourself in a misleading argument. Truth and untruth are not judged by personalities. Discern the truth first and then know its followers. Recognize the untruth and then identify its adherence to untruth." And that was a bit of a story from Imam Ali alayhi salam. Up next, news of the week. Welcome to News of the Week, courtesy of our partners, the Shia Waves Agency. Earlier this week, the war in the Middle East has led to a rise in hate crimes against Muslims in Canada, even in places that are designed to be safe. Shelters are now reporting an increase in hate directed at Muslims, with one woman saying that they're feeling unsafe in shelters. Nisa Homes is a women's shelter that provides services to Muslim women across Canada. It was founded 8 years ago to provide culturally sensitive social services. Shelter officials say they have seen an increase in incidents of Islamophobia experienced by their clients and those looking to access their services. Now, according to the shelter, their helpline saw a 350% increase in calls related to Islamophobia from 2022 to 2023. Calls related to racism increased by 62%. Now, in conjunction with the Fatimiyya mourning days, Saudi Arabia has inaugurated the first section of the Hira, or the Hira neighborhood project, which includes the access road to the historic Hira cave, where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his pure family ﷺ was first inspired with the clear proofs and verses of his prophethood. Religious activists considered that this project, which the kingdom described as a modern cultural project, is for Shia loyalists a confirmation of the importance of respecting these blessed places that have been honored by the Holy Prophet. They told Shia Waves Agency that the new road leading to the blessed cave of Hira will take only 15 minutes, which will save visitors and pilgrims a lot of difficulties. The activists pointed out that what encouraged them to pay attention to this new project is that it coincided with the anniversary of the martyrdom of the Holy Prophet's daughter, Sayyidah Fatima Zahra, salamullah alayha. They called on the Saudi government to undertake more projects that introduce Islamic holy sites, especially the rebuilding of the holy tombs of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, and the noble companions in Jannatul Baqiyah. Religious, social figures and Shia activists in Nigeria have called on the new president to bring to justice the perpetrators of the atrocities and bloody crimes against Shia in the country. Most notably the massacre of Sheikh Ziyara, which took place on January the 12th, 2015, and left more than 1,000 martyrs. According to news outlets followed by Shia Waves news agency, these Shia figures released their statement during a special ceremony held in Abuja on the occasion of the 8th anniversary of the crime, that what is happening in the country of aggression and violation of the rights of Shias, injustice and killing, is due to the ruling policy and its fight against the Shia community. They continued that the current government must investigate the killings and atrocities committed by the former president Goodluck Jonathan and the Muhammadu Buhari regime against the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, peace be upon them, and bring them to justice. They added that human rights organizations are also required to defend the rights of Shias in Nigeria and reveal the violations that took place against them during the previous rule. And that was a bit or an insight into news of the week courtesy of Shia Waves News Agency. After the break, we are going to come back to Sayyid Yunus. He's going to join me on the couch and we'll give you the final delivery of the artwork that he has done. See you in a couple of minutes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Everyone, we are so happy to be back for season 2 of Sessions with the Sayyid exclusively on Imam Hussein TV. And I'm here with Sayyid right now. Can you please tell us what we're going to be talking about for this season?
Assalamu alaikum Ahmed, good to be back with you again, inshallah. I'm so excited to begin season 2 with you after hopefully a successful season 1. This time looking into many under-discussed topics, among them the strange beard etiquette and facial hair, to Islam and fitness, to the barriers between Muslim gender interactions, and the list goes on to very pertinent under-discussed topics. So I can't wait to share them with you together, inshallah.
Inshallah. Please stay tuned weekly on Imam Hussein TV where the episodes will be posted. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Welcome back to Morning Baraka. In this last part of the show, we're going to deliver. Earlier in the show, actually, we had students of Arabic and Farsi calligraphy, Sayyid Yunus Dawood, who joined us in the studio, explained to me everything that I needed to know about calligraphy, its history, its modern times, how it's mixed with digital advancements in technology, and the course that he's taking. Anyway, we're now here because when he was at the stall, you did his drawing, and now we've got the final piece. So, Sayyid Yunus, once again, thank you so much for your time.
No worries.
Can we see the final look? And that's what it looks like. To me, that looks it looks perfect.
Yes.
To you, does that look perfect?
There's many mistakes in that.
There's many mistakes in it.
However, it's a step towards the right direction.
Okay.
This specific khat is called khat al-ijaza.
Ijaza
is the ones that usually certificates are written in Arabic countries.
Okay.
One of the main pioneers of khat al-ijaza is al-marhum Sayyid Muhammad Jawad al-Subti.
Okay.
Al-Najafi.
Right.
Who was Iraqi that lived in Qom and passed away a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And his way of khat al-ijaza is being taught everywhere around the world in terms of how beautiful it is.
Wow. And is there a community of you? Like, do you know your fellow calligraphers?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. There's a lot of asatida and students as well. One of my really closest friends that does calligraphy, and we keep in touch. Shout out to him, Sayyid Al-Qazwini.
Okay.
He's someone that's really helped me a lot and promoted this thing. Without him, it wouldn't be what I've done right now, because he's really helped me in terms of what to do, what to improve. He's bought me a lot of the equipment that we have actually right today here as well from Iraq. Yeah, from Iraq and Iran. He's bought me a lot of the ink, a lot of the pens, teach me how to do the stuff.
Are there English calligraphers?
Yeah, there is English calligraphers. Their calligraphy is totally different to what we do.
Of course, yeah.
Not in terms of the language, but just the way they do it, the way they present it, just everything they
Yeah. Okay.
So cool. It's much more different.
Well, look, I mean, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. I'm going to keep this if that's okay with you, because that's just I'm going to frame it because I love the green and I love the white. I love the simplicity of it. It's amazing. I'm going to keep that. And yeah, look, really appreciate your time. Do you have any socials? Oh no, you don't really want to share socials. Okay, don't worry about the socials. It's fine. Right. But thank you so much, Yunus, for your time. And that, my dear brothers and sisters, brings not just this episode but this season to an end. We are going to be going away or going on a break for a couple of weeks across the new year. We have a lot of big plans for the next season of Morning Baraka. Stay tuned because it's going to be big. It's going to be amazing. We're going to go outside. We're going to have more of this kind of stuff where we're in the studio. We're going to have different guests, different topics, a lot of important topics to dissect. We're going to have different segments, different parts of the show. So please stay tuned on our socials to make sure that you are well aware of what's going to happen in season 2 of Morning Baraka. And as always, I end the show by saying, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I ask for the beginning of this day of mine, righteousness, its middle, prosperity, and its end, success. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Imam Hussein Media Group, out of respect to its audience, wants to